Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of No Such Thing as a Fish. Before we get going, I have some news, and that is that we are going to do some live shows. Now, this news will not be news to those of you who are members of Club Fish because you have already had your priority booking time. But to everyone else, the tickets will be available on Friday the 12th of May at 2 p.m. UK time. That is today if you're listening to the show the day it goes out, or it's a Friday in the past if you're not. So the tickets are very likely to be available right now, and the way you get those is to go to nosuchthingasafish.com/Soho. The shows will be at the Soho Theatre in London. They take place from the 17th of July to the 21st of August. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, loads of facts, loads of dorkiness, loads of special guests. And as I said, if you want tickets for that, you can go to nosuchthingasafish.com/Soho. If you're thinking, it's in London, I can't get to there, I live all the way in Belgium, then fear not, because we also will be doing one show in Belgium at the Nerdland Festival. That will be with our old friend Lieven Skyra, and that will take place Zondag, the 28th of May, which luckily, I assume that's Flemish. It's not that good, but luckily my diary tells me it will be on Sunday, the 28th of May, and tickets for that are available at nerdlandfestival.be. So I hope to see lots of you at some of those gigs. But as far as today's podcast is concerned, it is a live show, and it was one that we did at the British Library with the incredible comedy actor and genius that is Sally Phillips. We did this show for the Fantastic Beasts exhibition at the British Library. They wanted us to do a show all about animals, and I'll be honest, we stretched that a fair bit from time to time, but we had so much fun. I really hope you enjoy the show. I'm sure you will. And I guess what else is there to say apart from on with the podcast?
Hello and welcome to another episode of No Such Thing as a Fish, a weekly podcast. This week coming to you live from the British Library. My name is Dan Schreiber. I am sitting here with James Harkin, Andrew Hunter-Murray, and Sally Phillips. And once again, we have gathered around the microphones with our 4 favorite facts from the last 7 days. And in no particular order, here we go. Starting with fact number 1, and that is my fact. My fact this week is that the British Library's Fantastic Beasts collection originally included accounts of a 9-foot dragon terrorizing Essex and an army of horses that teleported to rural Wales. And it was donated by the founder of the British Museum, Sir Hans Sloane.
Wow.
So he was a nutcase. So here's the thing, right? He's Hans Sloane, if you don't know who he is, he was one of the founders of the British Museum, an incredible guy. He was a doctor, and on top of being a doctor, he was obsessed with collecting. He collected everything, and that's what became the basis of the British Museum's collection.
He was a hoarder.
He was a hoarder, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a serious hoarder. He had like a separate apartment to hoard in because it got too much in his own. And how
did he die? Did it all collapse on him?
Yes, exactly. A museum pillar took him out. No, he was quite old, I think, when he died. I think he was in his 90s.
He was 93.
93.
Yeah.
Wow. Is this the bringer of chocolate? The man I know is the bringer of the hot chocolate to the United Kingdom. Controversial.
Yeah.
Is he?
He was,
Yes.
and I think it's been claimed that that was something he nicked. It was already in place. Yeah, I think he was in Jamaica, maybe.
He was in Jamaica. Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was a practice there, you sort of grated cocoa with milk and cinnamon and stuff. But I think he
Okay.
probably...
Sorry to shit on him in his own home, but
Well, the teleporting horse is better anyway.
it's way better, isn't it? Yeah, so this is what I was about to say is all the collections that got handed over after he passed away in his will to be the basis of the British Museum's collection eventually became the British Library's collection as well. And there was lots of papers, there was lots of physical objects, and a part of it was a collection of things called strange news. He was obsessed with strange news, stories that would come out from France and Scotland and Wales of odd things that,
Well, like dragons,
Like
or
dragons,
like
yeah.
appearing horses in the
It
middle
was
of
the
Wales.
artifact version of No Such Thing as a Fish.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, he's the old me, I guess.
You have fewer links to the slave trade, we should say, Dan. Just fewer. Fewer.
So this big dragon that arrived in Essex, it was in a place called Henham, which is just north of Stansted. It's about 2 miles north of Stansted. And so what I like to imagine is actually there was like a time travel portal that came in, and it was actually an EasyJet flight coming in. Maybe, I don't know. But there's loads of other things that he claimed. And the thing is, he went out to collect things from around the world, but the reason he did that is because he thought it would help people to better understand God's design of the world. And so when he was finding this strange news, a lot of things he didn't believe in, but there were some things that he did. So he found a story from France where fist-sized hailstones came down and kind of battered everything and hurt a lot of people and killed a lot of crops. But the only thing that was saved was a Protestant church.
Yeah.
And he thought that this was proof that, God was saving them.
Yeah, this one's amazing. There was a story, this is from Scotland. There was a guy who died, and he was in his home. They laid him in state. Is it in state? What is it? When you lay someone...
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So he's laid in the house. He's in a coffin for people to come and see.
Oh, like an open
Wake,
coffin.
like a wake.
Yeah.
Yeah, a state is pretty fancy.
It's pretty queenish, isn't it? Yeah.
That's,
yeah.
You just said this guy. Was this
Well,
the
this
King
is
of
the thing.
Scotland? Was
No,
this,
no,
I mean,
no.
was this-
How long was the queue, is what we're asking.
yeah. It was just a guy. And it was a town of Dumfries.
Okay,
yeah.
Dumfries, yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently... people went to visit him, and then it came the time where, okay, let's bury him now. And they tried to lift him, and no one could lift him. He was really heavy. They tried everything. So they brought cattle in, and they tied ropes around him and tried to pull him, and he didn't move. And then the house burnt down, and he remained as the only thing that was still there.
Wow.
He's like Arthur's sword in the stone. He's
the guy in the house.
Yeah, the corpse in the house.
Sorry, so he collected this story, but he didn't collect the guy.
No. You can't
couldn't
collect the
move the
guy,
guy.
is the point of the story.
So he had were these kept in diary form, or like what kind of evidence?
So these were like weird pamphlets that used to get produced, and so people
Right.
would go and buy them on the street, and it would just
Yeah.
say "Strange news from Scotland."
So he's 1660s.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
really early.
Oh yeah.
We should say that. I know we don't need to say it. None of the stuff is true that we're as in we keep saying apparently and then describing things which almost
Some people thought it was
yeah,
true.
that's true. I'm just saying, if in like 400 years they're discussing a copy of the Daily Star and saying, apparently there was a...
There is an infinitely heavy man. I think I remember that headline.
Yeah. Actually, weirdly, I found a Star headline in the course of... because I was researching animals which are not proven to exist.
Yes.
And there was a headline in the Daily Star in 2008, Loch Ness Monster dies aged 3 million.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know.
That's completely
Global
brilliant.
warming, very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the whole thing of fictional creatures, isn't it? Cryptids. I did Italian. Dante, there were a lot of fictional creatures. The phoenixes in Dante ate only incense and cardamom pods in heaven. Cardamom pods.
What's that?
It's that bit of a curry that you see and you're like, ugh, they've left it in.
Oh wow! And
No,
that's
it's the thing
heaven?
in the jazz version of a cinnamon bun.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, there are 3 types of phoenixes, 3 types of yetis.
Yeah, you found a yeti that I've never heard of, which is what was it called?
Wait,
It was
there's 3 types. The Nyalmo, which is black, has black fur and is the largest and the fittest, which is 15 foot tall. The Tuti, which is 8 feet tall and lives 8,000 to 10,000 feet above sea level. And the Rangshimbombo, which is only 3 to 5 feet tall. And I think must have been just mistaken it's an orangutan or some kind of baboon.
Yeah. The first one sounds like a gorilla.
Rangshimbombo, yeah, it does a bit.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
The first one you're describing
the first
is black
one.
fur,
Sounds like
quite
black
tall.
fur, the largest. Yeah, it's interesting. The abominable snowman. I mean, they had some fur, didn't they? That they kept. They various times over history they would analyse the DNA of.
Yeah.
And occasionally find it to be a horse or.
Yeah, or a bear or a.
But they now think it is a kind of bear hybrid thing, don't they?
Oh, do they?
I think so.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Also, I've studied this a lot, actually, Sally. And
I'm trying to find the thing you haven't studied a lot.
That's everything else.
I can't believe we've hit on the one thing I've studied. This is a dream come true. But Brian Blessed, who is a very...
Yeti.
That's what he would say. He would go for the Yeti, looking for the Yeti, and then the locals that he would meet in the Himalayas would say, "Oh, it's a Yeti," and he realized that
All the stories are him.
it's him.
I read about quite recently in Nepal, they had like these, I think they were models or badges or some kind of publicity of the Yeti. And they sent them out, and then all the locals were like, well, the Yeti looks nothing like that. What are you doing? Because it didn't have any fur on. And the guy who did it said, well, no one knows what it looks like anyway, so that's one thing. And number two, fur is actually really difficult to draw.
So King Kong, for example,
Yeah.
not a cryptid, I know a fictional character.
Yeah, a crowbar is what you're attempting.
No, we're talking about large, hairy
Okay, yeah.
fellas, and
Sorry.
King Kong is all of these three things. But King Kong was originally based on a lizard.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Godzilla? No.
I think Godzilla's a bit later. King Kong was based on the Komodo dragon.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Really?
There was so the filmmaker behind King Kong was Marion C. Cooper, and he was friends with an explorer called William Burden, who had got permission to collect some Komodo dragons from the Dutch East Indies, as they were then, now Indonesia. And until 1910, nobody from the West had seen a Komodo dragon. So they were cryptids. They weren't believed in. They had not been sighted, spotted, hunted, brought back. There were no specimens. And one was brought back by William Burden to the USA. And in the course of the expedition, his wife was nearly
Eaten by
by a Komodo dragon.
What? Right. Really?
And yeah, she'd finished sort of setting a photography, like a photo trap up or something for it,
Yeah.
and was going back and came face to face with one and had a lucky escape.
Wow.
And so that image of this kind of glamorous woman faced with a terrifying beast, when William Burden brought back the sample that he got of a Komodo dragon, Marion C. Cooper saw it and thought, what if it was a monkey? I mean, because gorillas were also new in the USA at the time.
How old was his wife?
Oh, I don't know.
Because there is a thing when you sort of hit menopause, your maternal instinct goes really into overdrive, and you start wanting to mother beautiful primates, and lots of women get into trouble that way. In animals and show business, there's a marriage made in hell. We had an animal agent who came on to Smack the Pony quite a lot. Jackie, she had quite a lot of, represented a lot of animals that would come occasionally with need. And she had a Vietnamese pot-bellied pig on her business card. I went, oh, he's so cute. Perimenopause starting, so cute. And do you still have him? She went, no, he weren't bringing in any work, so we ate him.
Wow.
I hope she said that in earshot of all the other animals. You better do your job.
Yeah, it was terrible. Apparently the hardest animals to train are owls. They just don't get it, apparently. So it's really interesting, isn't it? You'd think that an owl would be smart, but no, dumb. Cannot repeat.
Really?
Ravens are the dogs of the sky. Penguins are aggressive, bit of a nightmare. And they have explosive poo. Do you know this?
Who? Ravens?
Penguins, the poo explodes. So very difficult to pick up.
No. As in, you mean the poo shoots out. It doesn't. They don't lay it and then it just explodes.
Imagine if dogs did that.
Yeah.
Every time you'd be walking through the park, it would be like walking through World War I, wouldn't it? It'd be like the end of Blackadder.
Don't take your foot off it. Don't take your foot off it.
Yeah. They have lots of animals obviously playing each part. The kestrel in Kes was played, do you know this? You probably do. Played by 3 different kestrels called Freeman, Hardy and Willis after the shoe shop.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I presented the Palm Dog Award for Best Canine.
The palm dog.
Palm Dog. There is, in Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
Some British journalists, 22 years ago now, set up the Palm Dog rather than the Palm Door for the best canine performance. And I was lucky enough to present the award with Ronnie Ancona to Quentin Tarantino on behalf of the dog in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh,
which is played by three dogs, 2 male dogs and 1
Crosby,
female
Stills,
dog.
and-
Yeah. So
So the dogs don't get to come to the ceremony, or
well, they didn't. The dog didn't come to the. No, they found a similar breed and they brought that dog in. Dog didn't know what was happening.
oh god, they ate
Quentin
the first dog,
urinated.
didn't they?
Quentin urinated on the carpet. No, it was fine. But yeah. So obviously you have several, and they use different animals. So he was saying Quentin, Quint. Tar. My brother tried to license his image to put on lunchboxes. I don't know why. But anyway.
Well, hang on. We need to.
But he said they had 3 different dogs, 1 girl and 2 boys. And on the day, he thought the 2 male dogs were better, but then turned out the female dog was actually, when he got into the edit, he realised she was a much better actress.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Could we get back to your brother?
Tried to... tried to license Quentin Tarantino's image, famously a man who makes 18 certificate films, for lunchboxes.
Children's lunchboxes.
What was he thinking the market?
I didn't ask. It was only like a long time after he told me that I realised that was mad.
Tarantino's up there. He's accepting
It's
an
like
award
a brand,
as a
you know
dog.
that image of him,
But
like
where-
the Che Guevara Tarantino picture. I think they were putting that on stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that a famous picture, the Che Guevara Tarantino?
But do you know the one I mean, though?
No.
Because don't you? Okay, so I feel like there's a very sort of known...
I don't know if you remember, Dan knows everything about Yetis and nothing about anything else.
Do you know, just going back to mythological creatures a second, speaking of penguins exploding poo out their bums, there's a mythological creature called...
Smooth, by the way, smooth.
Thank you. There's a thing called the bonnekin. You heard of the bonnekin? Bonnekin's like it's like this beast which is like a half horse. It's got curved horns, and the way that it would, if it was being hunted by humans, the way that it would deter the humans is to fire poisonous shit out of its bum, right? But it can make a distance, and this is what's most impressive about this thing that doesn't exist. Is it can shoot at 3 acres.
That's a unit of area.
Area, not distance, yeah.
Yeah.
So does he cover the entire, 1.5 football pitch?
Yeah,
I think it does cover 3. I've also read about the Bonacon.
Interestingly, Brian Blessed told me
He could do that,
He
can't
can do that.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
he was on Everest, he
4
said,
acres.
Yeah, he said he said he had a bout of diarrhea on Everest, and the poo shot out, and he said that his thing he often says is, "Don't camp under the French, because the fuckers will shit on you." That's his that's like a T-shirt quote from him. But
Again, who's buying these obscene T-shirts and lunchboxes?
yeah, I need to meet your brother actually. No, so anyway, the bonnekin. The bonnekin is a terrifying creature with 3-acre poisonous poo shoots, and everyone that's depicted trying to hunt it all faces the other way, basically facing as ready to run because they want to escape the firing
Poisonous
line.
poo.
Yeah.
It's like fighting Medusa. Have you come across, I'm sure you have, the fictitious creatures of lumberjack culture?
No. This sounds amazing.
No? Guys, settle in. There are a number of books called things like Fearsome Critters about fictional creatures in lumberjack lore.
Yep.
And they're things like, my favourite one, let me look at my favourite one. There's a splinter cat. It's a regular cat, but with no logic. Who's an indiscriminate destroyer of hollow trees, which was their explanation for lightning strikes. But there was one that was the lumberjack hunter that hides behind trees so you can't see it, but can only be deterred by loads of alcohol. So the lumberjacks must be drunk to keep safe.
That's good.
It's kind of fun.
That's good logic. We're going to have to move on. We've run way over.
Oh, no. I was reading some stuff by Alien, the Roman writer and orator.
What?
Alien.
Alien.
Oh,
I'm going to call him Alien.
Alien, yeah.
Alien.
Yeah.
Alien. And he's got loads of amazing creatures. He has the Buprestis, which he believed existed, which is a creature which, if swallowed by a cow, causes the cow to swell and burst. He had a smooth lobster, where if you saw it on the beach and then you marked where it was and you drove it to anywhere in the world, when you got back to where it was, it would be back there.
Whoa! You sure it wasn't
great.
teleporting?
Could have been, yeah. And he said also that if a snake is eating something that's a little bit too big for it to swallow, and it kind of gets it into the mouth and can't go any further, it'll stand straight on its tail and jiggle itself so the food will go down into his stomach.
Amazing.
Have you seen those videos of people hunting anacondas?
No.
No.
They put a leather trouser on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And stick their entire leg into the snake's hole.
Yeah, they get swallowed.
Why would you do that?
And then they have a to catch a snake to, I guess,
Oh.
eat it.
You're the worm for fishing.
You're the
in
worm.
that
I
case.
don't like this.
Yeah.
And then they haul you out, and then kill the snake.
And the leather thing is so that the snake doesn't digest, so all the juices doesn't
Yeah.
digest the
And
human
maybe
body.
the teeth can't go through it or something? or-
Yeah,
it's
I think that
just-
as well.
it's just
There was a guy, did you
awful.
see the guy? I think this is right. He was attempting to be swallowed by a snake as well, and it was going to be like a world record. But
What's the... What?
I think I'm right in saying this.
Guinness don't even accept, heaviest cat anymore.
I think, unfortunately,
Don't they?
No.
They
Sorry,
found an
Sally.
infinitely heavy one in Dumfries, didn't they?
But this guy this was big. It was big. It was set up. It was like with a Nat Geo kind of thing. The snake started swallowing on the wrong end, so he went head first, and he wasn't ready for it, and so they had to pull him out and cancel.
Did he not have his big leather hat?
They do. I mean, they catch fish like that sometimes in America, don't they? It's catfish, and they'll get the cat to grab hold of their fist, and then when it's bitten, they pull it out.
really?
It's called catfisting.
Is it?
Yes, yeah.
I'd rather be catfished, if anything.
Stop the podcast.
Stop the podcast.
Hey, Andy.
Hi, James.
Hi, Andy. I'm a bit sick of my old IP address.
People have been saying it's stale. It needs an uplift.
Okay, well, how am I going to do that?
Well, what you could do, James, is use a VPN or a virtual private network.
Oh, what's that?
Well, basically, it's a way of connecting your PC or your phone or your tablet, whatever it is, to another computer somewhere on the internet, and it allows you to browse using that computer's internet connection. So if that server is in a different country, it makes it look as if you are coming from that country. So that might help with security. It might help with accessing things you couldn't do normally. It helps with all sorts of things.
This sounds amazing, but how on earth am I going to get one of these VPNs? And also, how will I be able to get an extra 3 months for free when I sign up to one?
All you have to do is go to expressvpn.com/fish. That's express, EXPRESS, VPN.com/fish. And you will be able to get that and get an extra 3 months for free when you sign up.
Excellent. I will straight away go to expressvpn.com/fish. That's EXPRESSVPN.com/fish. And I'll get my extra 3 months for free and have the best new IP address and be the best new me.
Lovely.
Okay, on with the podcast.
On with the show.
It is time for fact number 2, and that is James.
Okay, my fact this week is that in real life, the very hungry caterpillar would have gone around headbutting his mates. So these days, all of these children's books are getting rewritten, aren't they? Like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and whatever. Yeah. And I'm calling for the very hungry caterpillar to be rewritten to be more factually accurate. Because according to the people at Florida Atlantic University, whenever caterpillars get really, really hungry and they don't have enough food, they'll go around looking for other caterpillars, and then they'll attack them, knock them off where they're eating, and then they'll go in and eat their leaf.
No way.
Yeah. And so that's what Eric Carle really should have been writing about.
It's a tough
yeah.
They don't eat ice cream. They don't eat lollipops. They don't eat salami. They tend to only eat one kind of leaf. Any caterpillar. Whatever caterpillar you get,
This is going to sell big, James. On Monday, he got in one fight and he ate one of the same kind of leaf that he's going to eat for the rest of the week.
They occasionally get a species which will eat fruit. So you might get one that would eat an apple, but it would only eat apple, and it would only eat the same apple, and it would live inside the apple it was eating until it was ready to
I
play.
actually would really enjoy that book. My partner Ian pointed out on the way here that Eric Carle was conscripted into... Yeah, he fought on the Siegfried Line.
I think it was. So, he was an American born with a German
at age 15
mom.
he was conscripted, and he had to dig the trenches. In my head, that's a bit like a caterpillar. Do caterpillars dig? Oh. That's what gave him the idea.
He was born in Germany. The family moved to America really soon. Or his early years were in America, certainly. Then the family moved back to Germany in 1935, when he was about 6 years old. So at the end of the war, he was conscripted to dig trenches, and he was fired at. And
he was 15 as well.
15 years old.
Yeah.
And then after the war, obviously had a horrible time. His father was in a prison camp, and and had an awful time. Then the family moved. He certainly moved back to America, and then he was conscripted a second time to go to join the U.S. Army and to go back to Germany again, where he was involved in
Filling in the holes that he dug.
I actually feel quite bad that I'm shitting on his book now.
No.
Well, I mean, is it any wonder that the follow-up book was called The Very Grumpy Ladybird? And there was another one called Polar Bear, What Do You Hear, I think.
He wrote a lot.
Or What Do You See? What Do You Hear? Yeah, because, yes.
He was a great artist, and
Also, an amazing scheme off the back of this book, because there was an Eric Carle museum that you can go to in America, and in the museum, everything
Everything
has
is edible.
a hole in it.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, not everything's edible. That would be amazing, yeah. No, so like if you go to the canteen, you buy a cookie, and the cookie has a massive hole in it.
Brilliant.
So this guy is saving so much money in his... I remember reading that the New York Times, when they removed the dot at the end of New York Times, that little on the headline, they were saving $600 a year. That little bit of ink cost them so much. Imagine how much that bit of cookie that's missing is
What do they
saving the
do
music.
with those little bits of cookie, though? Do they
They sell smaller cookies.
Yeah.
But imagine how you could ruin that museum by having Eric Carle's experience of warfare, like a room.
That's not
As
the
you
good
go
room
in.
to go in. Yeah.
Trench digging.
Trench room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went onto his website because there is another problem in this book. And that is that towards the end, the caterpillar goes into a cocoon and becomes a butterfly. But butterflies don't go into cocoons. Butterflies go into chrysalises.
Well, caterpillars.
Caterpillars.
Butterflies don't go into anything.
No, they come from chrysalises.
Yeah.
And so some kids have written into him and said, well, why have you got a cocoon in your book? And he replied saying, well, there is a rare genus that lives in Siberia, North Korea, and the northern islands of Japan called Parnassian, which does pupate in a cocoon.
So he was hugely relieved when he found out. As in, that doesn't...
What's the difference? Sorry. What's the difference between a chrysalis and a cocoon?
So a cocoon is made out of silk, and a chrysalis isn't.
Chrysalis is made out of nylon.
But you get quite a lot of moths that make cocoons.
Okay.
And other insects, but butterflies don't. But he did then say, actually, caterpillars don't eat lollipops either. This was just it's a special caterpillar. It's allowed to do what it wants.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a children's book. Grow up.
And then another kid wrote in saying caterpillars don't have noses.
Oh, get stuffed. Just,
And he said, I know it has a nose on its face, but this feature grew out of my imagination.
They don't have shoes either, caterpillars.
I read an anecdote about him, which I'm only bringing it up because I didn't understand it, so I'm hoping that maybe you guys will. So he said that he wrote all these books, as you were saying, where it was sort of like the next kind of... So The Very Busy Spider, The Very Quiet Cricket. And in an interview, he says that he found himself in the changing rooms after swimming, and a satirical young fan suggested a book entitled The Very Slow Penis. To the author's great amusement. And I can't work out what's funny about that. What's a slow penis?
Ask your wife.
Does it also have a hole going through it, this book?
I just can't work out what a slow penis is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's a slow loris.
There was a...
Well, you've stumped us all, Dan. Thank you.
At no such thing on Twitter if you want to let us know.
He got their hairs right anyway. Butterflies and moths, I discovered, have nearly 10 billion hairs on them.
No.
10 billion, because these scientists have spent over a decade studying the surface area of animals.
Counting, yeah.
No, the surface area of animals. I mean, that's such a funny thing, I think.
Yeah.
So a cat's surface area is actually like a ping pong table.
When you cover your ping pong table in cat, the ball doesn't bounce nearly as well.
Yeah.
A sea otter has the surface area of a professional hockey rink.
Because they've got is it the
Lots of
hairs?
So many hairs, so many different hairs.
That's brilliant.
And a honeybee has the same number of hairs as a squirrel.
Really?
Wow.
I know. Yeah, the Georgia Institute of Technology, just astonishing.
That's amazing.
They were
what do
running
we do with that?
calculations to find the true surface area of animals because they were trying to work out ways of keeping things clean. So dogs obviously shake, or every animal has a different way of keeping clean. And sometimes the fur helps them to stay clean, sometimes it doesn't. That's why you must never shave a dog. I'm sure you haven't, but don't shave a dog, even a really furry one. It's not good for it.
I used to have a chow chow.
They don't get a number one.
Yeah,
My
you shouldn't
chow chow
shave
did
your
have
chow
a
chow.
number one.
You
Yeah.
shouldn't do that. That's bad. That's what
Dan,
Google said. That's what
Were you told the chow chow needs to go and have a number one? Did you go down to the hairdressers and say, short as you can, mate?
Yeah. And watch out for the number twos. They will explode. On the idea of James, this whole thing that you have about the incorrect facts about children's books. Here's one thing that this feels like a very QI thing, so I'm sure a lot of people already know this. I didn't, though. A lot of kids' books, when there's a whale, let's say a blue whale or any kind of whale that's surfacing, there's always this beautiful spout of water that's coming out, and there's They don't do that.
What? I feel like I've seen that in real life.
You have.
Oh, what?
Go on. The Riddler.
But his horse was called Thursday. What?
Yeah.
No, the doctor was his mum. That's
If you see any kind of thing where it's a whale with a huge water coming out,
spout of water.
spout of water, that is basically, according to experts, that is what would happen if a whale is drowning.
Oh.
They don't spout water out of their blowhole. That's their nostril. That's their breathing. They don't put water out through that. So when
they do breathe.
When
They
you see
surface to
that, the
breathe.
breathing is moist air that's just collected inside, and that's what's coming out. So if you ever see a whale where there's spouts of waters coming down, it is drowning.
So
It is
what
a
I've
dying
seen,
whale.
I've not seen a drowning whale. I've seen like a water vapor whale.
Yeah,
have I?
exactly. You're seeing water vapor,
Hope.
and it gives that misty kind of look. But
Like a
proper
kettle.
water, like a kettle, exactly. But if you see a fountain, that's you go save that whale.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, what it means is every drawing of a whale in a child's book
It's
Very
dying.
is a
upsetting.
dying whale.
That's
Very upsetting.
It is time for fact number 3, and that is Andy.
My fact is that the false gecko, which has the Latin name pseudo-gecko, is a gecko. There are 10 species of false gecko. They're all geckos. Not one of them is not a gecko. And it's just a name. It's just a really
weird,
bad
isn't it?
name. Yeah. And I couldn't find why they're called false geckos. I think maybe they were found and assumed to be something different. But geckos are wonderful.
There are geckos that don't have legs, that look like snakes. I would have thought that would have been the false gecko.
Oh,
There you go. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there are 6 families of geckos with no legs. They're all endemic to Australia and New Guinea.
Right.
Brilliant.
I think
And
I've
they've
seen a
got their
photo,
vestigial hind limbs. Apparently, they look a tiny bit like flaps.
Yeah, you can see these little bumps that come out, and that means it's a lizard. Yeah.
And no eyelids either.
No
Almost
eyelids.
every gecko has no eyelids. There are 1,500 species of gecko,
Yeah.
and all bar 43 have no eyelids.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And the Eublepharidae, which literally means good eyelids in ancient Greek, they have eyelids. But even they also lick their eyes like all the other geckos do to moisten them, despite having eyelids.
Right.
Oh.
Amazing.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Have you heard of the fuck you lizard?
No.
This is a lizard which it's not its official name. That's not the scientific name. But it was a lizard that when Americans were over in Vietnam during the war, they kept noticing that they just kept hearing a little voice going "fuck you," and they're like, what is going on? And they'd be walking up, "fuck you," and so they all discovered that it's just this lizard that just makes a noise.
Come on.
Like, "Fuck you," and so it became known as the "fuck you" lizard.
Why do we not
amazing.
all have one of those?
Yeah.
It does feel like...
The noises, I was surprised at gecko noises, though, that they bark.
Well, they're the only lizard that makes a noise, geckos.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
There you
because
go.
if you think what noise does a lizard make?
You wouldn't have thought it was... But that sort of... It sounds more like a sort of electric buzzer ring, doesn't it?
Sally, do you think a gecko could ever win the palm dog?
No.
No?
Fuck you!
Because it's...
We covered a few years ago. I think we covered the hero dog of the year, and a few years ago it was won by a cat.
That's true.
Really?
Yeah.
I presented Hero Dog of the Year.
No.
Well, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. No, not this year, but anyway, quite recently. And this
Hero
is
Dog
going
of the
to
Year.
sound a bit mean now. But one of the finalist dogs... Okay, this is just my problem. It was a finalist dog, and it wasn't a Chihuahua, but it was similar. It was very, very small. And his owner / mummy, whatever you prefer to call it, said that the dog had saved her partner's life by giving him CPR.
She's got home
And the
and her
dog
husband
was-
is kissing the dog.
the
That's
dog
what's
was-
happened there.
The dog was very, very small. Very small. I don't know why the dog was trained in CPR. But anyway, it's all a bit of a problem for me, having to just silence the questions in my brain that kept coming.
Well, because there's so many stages. You've got to lay the head back a bit. You've got to...
You just want to
certain
go,
pumps.
you're shitting me, right?
Yeah.
This is like,
And was that the? Oh, it was one of the
Was it
finalists.
finalists?
didn't win.
Well, who the fuck
Are you
took
a-
that as a dog?
The winners were amazing. There were these water dogs that...
Who did open heart surgery.
Yeah. It's a dog with SpaceX in mission control.
Hey, animals have done some amazing things.
They
I
have,
do want to
yeah.
before we move on from geckos, though, did you know that in January last year, German Hans-Kurt Kubus was caught at Christchurch Airport, New Zealand, with 44 geckos concealed in his pants?
They were doing a small incision, and
He's just walking through immigration. He's, "Ruff, ruff, ruff, ruff. Fuck you, fuck you.
There's a massive market in gecko smuggling.
Really?
A New
amazing.
Zealand gecko,
Tragic.
because they're diurnal, like most geckos are nocturnal.
Right.
New Zealand gecko is diurnal and very, very pretty, and they can go for about $22,000. So there's
What's
a massive...
diurnal? Sorry, diurnal.
Is that the wrong word?
No, no,
it is.
They
Just
awaken the
awake in the
daytime.
day. You're
What?
diurnal.
I'm diurnal.
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I sort of
Don't
thought it
question
made-
yourself, Sally. Question Dan.
I'm sorry. You'll get
Yeti,
used to
tell
this.
me more about Yetis.
Yeah.
My ignorance questions.
no.
you.
Dan, do you want to know a cool... So, diurnal, awake in the day.
Yeah.
Nocturnal, awake at night.
Yeah.
Crepuscular.
Dusky.
Yeah.
I know that.
Dawn and dusk.
What happened to the ternal bit of the word? Why did they lose that?
I don't know. Latin, innit?
Speaking of Latin, I was reading about Alien, the Roman writer and orator. He said that if a dead gecko lands in your wine, then it's fine. But
Okay.
if it lands in your olive oil, it will taste terrible, and when you eat it, it will immediately give you lice.
Wow.
Oh,
It's great. They've got lots of symbolic... There's lots of superstition around geckos and lizards, aren't there? If you find a lizard tail in your left shoe, it is very lucky. Do not take it out.
Is that real?
That's a real one. That's a
Just the
current
tail?
day one. Just the tail, yeah. Because obviously their tails come off and they can regrow them.
Yeah.
Do you know starfish, though, can regrow... If you take its leg off, it can regrow a whole starfish from the leg.
That's nuts. Like that's crazy though. What do they have? What,
crazy.
do they have?
They store all the nutrients in the leg until they can grow a mouth.
Does it have a brain or intelligence
Don't
or
know.
any kind of thing?
Pass,
or?
don't know.
Probably doesn't know it's a starfish, is the truth.
But
they, you know, they have neurons.
Throughout it. Yeah. Can I tell you about a guy called Ben Barr? He was looking for a particular gecko called the Coppola gecko, which was spotted for the first time in 1968, and then once again in 2007, and that was it.
Yeah.
No specimen had ever been observed or collected apart from those two occasions. No one knew if it was still existing, or alive.
Or if it was a teleporting horse.
Exactly, yeah. And he led 3 trips to search for it. And basically, the process of searching for this Coppola gecko is just to turn over rocks. He spent 2 years turning over rocks,
Leaving
looking
no
for this
stone
gecko.
unturned.
He left no stone unturned. He didn't even know for sure what it looked like, because not exactly. And no scientist had ever held one in their hand. And after 2 years and 3 expeditions, he found one.
Hey,
He said
nice.
he was so excited. He said it was very similar to having a baby, the euphoria.
And have you bought the movie rights?
It's just lovely, yeah. And he found
nice.
4. He found 4 on the same expedition.
Oh, that's
I imagine
cool.
under the same rock, but still.
Yeah,
It's just,
maybe.
yeah. Imagine that determination to keep on. It's like your surface area measuring
Yes,
scientist.
yeah, you do admire it.
Yeah.
I got addicted to watching conservation TV at one point, like the presentations of all the scientists, because all the conservation scientists, zoologists, I guess they're called, because it was so funny, like the Argentinian wolfman. He had long hair, he really appeared to be having an affair with the British cheetah lady. and there was this really adorable couple, I think from Chile, who had been looking for the Andean wildcat. We spent it, and they said, we have not ever seen the Andean wildcat. It's been 5 years. And they showed all these photos of Land Rover in different places where they had looked for the Andean wildcat and not seen it. And they were so charming and like, well, it's been an interesting journey, but we think there is wildcat. We think this is a wildcat poop or whatever they said, stool. And then they went off, and then this really arrogant, tall thin American guy came in from the Rare Wildcat Conservation Society, and he went, Wildcat, and he just had 50 slides of wildcats. Yeah.
Wait, were you presenting him with an award?
No, I was just depressed. I was in bed watching them on YouTube. I became very interested in the women who run sloth sanctuaries.
Oh, yeah.
Because they seem to have absolutely no zoological training whatsoever, and know nothing about sloths. So there's this one woman who goes a sloth orphanage in Costa Rica. She'd gone on a cruise with her husband, and a baby sloth had fallen out of a tree, and she'd known right then she needed to abandon her life in the States and start a sloth orphanage, which she did. And the problem she has to stop them having sex with each other. She didn't have room for any more, and people kept bringing them, so they were kept strictly segregated. And
That's a slow penis.
that is a slow penis.
There we go.
Yes,
Very
that
nice.
is a slow penis. But one of them got mange, and she just shaved it. And she didn't know whether this was the right thing. She shaved them. And
So can you
these two,
shave,
she
are you allowed to
shouldn't
shave a
a sloth, I'm sure. And there was a PhD student, and I ended up watching this documentary series about them and getting absolutely obsessed. There was a PhD student there called Becky, who was do you remember the one?
I think we've mentioned Becky on the podcast. But yeah,
Have you? Has she been
excitingly-
on?
Like, no, she hasn't been. We can get her.
Is
No,
it-
but I mean, you're like, it is.
It was really weird. I
But
feel
she's so-
she was northern.
Yes,
she was
she's from the north
quite
of the UK, yes.
lethargic herself. And she said, I couldn't decide what to do for my PhD. And I went to see my tutor, and I said, I can't decide between jaguars and sloths. And he said, what about sloths? So here I am.
And then
And
the
she-
cheetah lady went past, went, yeah, that's a really good idea. What are you doing?
Have you seen the video where a sloth mistakes its own arm for a tree branch? And then can't do anything about it because it's so slow, it just falls from the tree?
They can be quite fast, though, can't they? The ones that can swim are
They
quite
swim
fast.
really
Yeah,
They
fast.
swim really
Yeah.
fast.
If you
yeah.
put them in a fast current,
They're just
I think
drugged, aren't they?
Yeah,
Those leaves that's just drugs, isn't it, for them?
it?
That They only eat one. I did think about writing a film about this sloth sanctuary, which is why, and obviously you can get the sloths out of Costa Rica.
Their
You
agents
need-
will never get back to you. That's the
Yeah,
problem with a
yeah,
sloth.
You
know?
can't transport them.
I was reading about a woman who runs a hospital for Hawaiian monk seals. And
I read about her.
This is amazing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
amazing.
Yeah, so she runs this monk seal place, and she was out and she was getting lunch or something like that, and she gets a missed call she gets a call on her phone. She picks it up, no one's there. So what's going on? Happens 9 times while she's out, and she's called like the phone people. She's like, is there like anything wrong with the line? It looks all fine. Gets back to the hospital, and she looks, and on the phone is a little gecko just pressing its finger on the call button, and it's calling her, and that was it. She was
Yeah,
getting
but it'd been calling loads of other people as well.
yeah, it called.
Yeah, but it made the newspaper said a bazillion phone calls.
That was the official number. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, just little gecko feet.
Can I do a quick quiz before we move on?
Yes, we do need to move on. Yes.
So this was a weirdly named animal, pseudo gecko. Is it a gecko? Is it not? I've got some more like this. So the coffin fish. Can the coffin fish cough? It's a quiz.
Or are you tricking us with pronunciation? Does it live
I'd say it
in
does
a coffin?
In a coffin.
It does float. It's
Yeah.
coffin fish, like
coffin.
a coffin, but can it cough?
I'll say no, it can't. I don't think fish can.
Well, you're wrong.
Oh.
Fish can expel air through their gills if things get stuck in there, and we call that coughing.
That's a cough.
Can the swallowtail butterfly swallow its own tail?
Yes.
No, I'm going to say no.
No, obviously not. But the
Dan.
only fact I know about it is it has an eye on its penis, so it can see where it's going.
Crumbs.
Really?
That is
Yeah.
not true.
It is true.
The swallowtail?
Butterfly.
A bird? Butterfly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. It's fine. It's a butterfly.
I was thinking
You-
swallow.
You've read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. That's the final scene.
And finally, does the bloody nose beetle often have a bloody nose?
I'll say yes.
Andy, I've told you, insects don't have noses.
Oh!
Will you please listen?
Oh, I fell right into it.
No, it expels blood from its mouth. And that's why it's called that.
Spells blood from its mouth.
We're
my
going to
word.
need to move on to our final fact of the show.
Can't bear it.
The show? Or...
Oh, no.
Right with you.
Just want
I
to
feel,
keep going.
yeah.
I want to talk about the penguin who got a knighthood, and I want to talk about the Welsh corgi who's got a PhD.
Okay, it is time for our final fact of the show, and that is Sally.
The band, the Super Furry Animals, do you see what I did there, wore Yeti costumes for a year, and they said it really changed their personalities. Becoming much hairier changed how they performed.
What was the surface area when they were... So I don't
It
know
looks
much
great,
about.
doesn't
I
it?
don't know much about the super furry animals.
Well, to be honest, until yesterday, nor did I.
But they're Welsh
Welsh.
rockers. Like,
No, they're Welsh.
Welsh
They were like the
rockers,
centrepiece
psychedelic.
of the cool Cymru, Welsh resurgence with Gorky's zygotic minky. I'm going to say that wrong. That's correct,
Okay.
isn't it? You're a super fan, though, aren't you?
I am a
You're a super furry fan of the Super
And of
Furry
Gocky's
Animals.
Zygotic Monkey as well.
You're wearing
Yeah.
a T-shirt. You're wearing a T-shirt
am.
right now. What's
Yeah.
that?
They are very, very cool. They did loads of
Yeah, they did loads of crazy stuff. They had
they-
lots of like costumes and all that kind of stuff. And,
Yeah, they
very
bought they bought a
psychedelic.
tank and drove it into the National Eisteddfod.
Oh wow!
They bought it for £10,000 from a one-eyed arms dealer with a limp, and then they sold it on to Don Henley from the Eagles.
Really?
Isn't that extraordinary? Like
Just
a real.
band,
It wasn't.
arms dealing band circuit
It,
going
was,
on.
it wasn't the
That's really
only contact they had with arms dealers either. Because they sampled lots of sounds, didn't they? And they got some real guns.
But what's with the Yeti thing? So why
the
did they
Yeti
dress as
thing,
Yetis?
well, they'd experimented on their album before. They had some snow monsters on stage in Glastonbury during the Northern Lights song. They were members of Mogwai. Do you know all of this? You've
Mogwai,
probably-
yeah.
No.
A bit. And unfortunately, Mogwai just dropped an E before putting the very hot suits on. And it became quite dangerous. So they had to have people running around giving them water. But they were really into different kinds of creatures. And then they came across a sculptor called Peter Gray, who made loads of sculptures out of hair. And he suggested just making these Yeti costumes for them for the video for Golden Retriever. And they thought it was just brilliant. And Peter Gray said, I'll tell you where it needs to be. You need to shoot this on a glacier in Iceland next to a giant fire, which all the Yetis are worshipping. But they'd recently signed with Sony, who said that was an uninsurable concept. So they did it in a studio in North London, and it sort of looks like the Yetis are playing inside a cardboard box, which is being sniffed at and then urinated on by a dog. But it's really, really cool.
So how did it change their
Yeah,
personalities?
change their personalities. They said they're none of them exhibitionists, really. They're quite political and love music, very creative and non-conformist and the rest of it. I mean, they released a entirely Welsh language LP and then only toured it in America and Australia, for example.
It went to top 20.
Went into the top 20, yeah. But they said that it was like being transformed. They said none of them were exhibitionists in reality. It's an actual quote. But we were able to put these costumes on and become 70s rock monsters, and it drove the audience nuts.
Yeah.
So they really... And
I
so
can
it's
see
kind of
that.
interesting, the impact of hairiness or hairlessness
I think
has
it's-
incredible power.
I think it's a costume thing. So my son's 5th birthday was late last year, and I dressed up as Mr. Potato Head. And I honestly felt...
Did you buy that or make it?
I bought it from...
You bought
I
it.
bought it online. It's
I
really
saw
cool.
I saw it. It was
Yeah,
Did it
was
inflate
good.
itself? Was it one of those?
It was like a brown big piece of fabric, and then you could stick on the eyes and the ears and stuff like
Oh.
that. Do you know what? It was a hit, Andy, despite you.
I'm saying it was good.
We've lent it out to multiple parents ever since for
Have
their birthday
you?
parties. Yeah, we haven't even got it at the moment. But here's the thing: the confidence it gave me, because it was.
With that audience of 5-year-olds who would have worshipped you anyway.
I honestly like.
Really?
I felt like a superhero. It was amazing.
That's interesting.
And I went up because school had just started. My son was going to a new school. We knew no one, so I went up to all the parents. I would never do that. Went up to all of them. Hey, what's up?
You went
this is
to
at the party,
school?
not the school gates. This is a.
No, this is the party. I'm
right,
Mr.
okay.
Potato
Yeah,
Head.
yeah,
What
got
I'm
it.
just trying to say is I don't think it's the hair necessarily. I think
Yeah.
you must know this as an actor. When you have a different persona that suddenly comes over you, there's a weird
Yeah.
confidence that makes you a bit unstoppable in a way. I was
It can
unstoppable.
go. It can go
with the hair.
both ways. I'm thinking.
Oh, really?
I have very vivid memories of it going the other way.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose one. Yes, I do. I do know what you mean. It's weird when you play a bride in a film. People on set treat you as if you're getting married. Even though they know you're acting.
Really?
We all know you're acting, but you get treated, people open doors and they smile at you and go, oh, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is a thing with autistic kids where if you put them in a mask, you can, not all, you can't generalise, but lots of people have found that theatre can really help people who are very introverted to speak.
Well,
That's really interesting.
Well, interestingly, just on topic, so what they were doing there, they were dressing as Yetis. It's not being a furry, but that's... A lot of people dress up as furries, right?
I think we should say what a furry is for those. I mean,
Yeah, so a furry is someone who feels more comfortable when they're wearing a costume that has been designed where it's an animal.
No,
it can
I
be
think a
multiple
furry
animals.
is just someone who's a fan of the culture of,
Yeah.
anthropomorphic animals,
Yeah.
and some of them do like to wear costumes.
Exactly,
Yeah,
sorry.
they're very keen. They feel they get a bad press, and over 60% of furries feel that they are bullied and get negative. People have negative conceptions. The
Yeah.
weird thing is, only around 25% of all furries own a suit.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. So I don't know how you classify yourself as a furry if you.
Well, I guess you go to the cons and you like
What,
reading
in your
it
home
and-
clothes?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
in a suit? I thought
Yeah.
it was all about the suit.
So did I, but we're wrong.
Maybe you can't afford it. But on the point of autism, there was one of these cons that had an autism panel with furries, and there was a lady there who said that it really helps if you're autistic. So she said, for 3 days, I am not autistic. For 3 days, I am a giant anthropomorphic version of the Titanic. And she feels...
It helps break the ice.
Oh, God. There we go.
The first furry convention, the first furry convention was almost all people in normal clothes. Or in human clothes.
Right.
And you can still see videos of it online. It was in Holiday Inn in California. And there's basically only one person who dresses up in a costume. It was a guy called Robert Hill who came dressed as a giant S&M deer called Hilda the Bambioid.
Crikey.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. And they chose that place because it's so close to Disneyland. And they thought that everyone who's kind of into anthropomorphic animals would also be into Disneyland. And they went there. And they, if you go online, you can see like the history of all these conferences that they've had called Conference. And the first time they had a problem with the hotel was in 1994. And the problem was the hotel.
Too many, all the bathrooms got clogged drains. That was the problem.
That was the only problem.
Yeah.
It was so, and the breakfast buffet was no. Apparently, it was too big, the hotel, so they couldn't fill it up with just their people. So there was a load of other people there as well.
Okay.
And they weren't so understanding, and there was lots of complaints. And then a maid found a costume in a room by a person who had a costume of veteran of the psychotic wars, and it was a unicorn who carried a big sort of cartoon cherry bomb. So they would have like this big sort of black bomb shape like you would have in a
with like
cartoon,
the
yeah.
wick coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
What is
So
going
they
on?
found this. The maid found this costume in the room.
Right.
And they called the bomb squad because there was a bomb in the room,
But a cartoon bomb.
a cartoon bomb.
Although, what's the best place to hide a bomb?
I guess so. But
Cartoon bomb.
the bomb squad didn't see it the right way, and they fined the hotel for making a prank call. So when the bomb squad came and they saw it was just cherry bomb and there was a unicorn costume next to us, they're like, "You're wasting our time," and they fined them, and they never were allowed to go back to that hotel again.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's behaved reasonably there.
What? What about this guy's he's just got a costume. It's not his fault.
Yeah, I guess.
It did amuse me, that quote in the article we've probably both read, where they said most furries, it's not an erotic thing, it just gets too hot.
Yeah.
But the other astonishing fact was that there's 10,000 people in the UK who live as dogs. That's what it said on Google.
Living as
maybe
dogs
not living as dogs, maybe like
dogs
wanting to
dogs
be...
have a very broad spectrum
wanting
of...
to be referred to or dress up as dogs or have handlers and... That seemed to be a different kind of outfit.
10,000
That
is a
seemed to be
lot.
a kind of... It's a lot. It seemed to
I
be
go
a
for a-
kind of white unitard with little spots.
Right.
Feels like you might have read Live on the Isle of Dogs.
I go for a walk every day.
Yeah, well,
Oh, yeah.
you know...
Am I one of your 10,000? Just
What's
some
a
people...
broad spectrum of dogs, though? Like,
Well,
where...
some dogs live in the house, some dogs might live in a kennel, some dogs are pampered house dogs. Some
There is a
dogs are-
BDSM thing of pups, being a pup.
Yeah. I mean, you've got.
You say, yeah.
I did not
know that.
I said yeah to kind of gloss over it rather than to fully endorse. But you know, dogs divide into hound, pooch, and mutt, don't they? Those are the three.
Do they?
Yeah. Those are the three broad categories
Sorry,
of dog.
is the broad category of
Yeah.
dog that you can choose to dress up as?
No, not at all. But like, if you see a dog, normally you'll know within a second whether it's a hound, a pooch, or a mutt, unless it's a Labrador, in which case it's just a dog. The Labrador is the kind of classic dog. Does no one else play hound, pooch, or mutt?
No.
Extraordinary.
Can you get Andy an introduction to Hero Dog of the Year?
I think I could qualify. Yeah. I do. Just on dressing up as animals. So a lot of people who have to dress as animals a lot and not sort of for relaxation for their work are zookeepers. There's a brilliant photo from 2004 of there's a Japanese party of school children. They're all about, I'd say, 4 or 5 years old. And they are being approached by a life-size rhinoceros, which is a pantomime rhinoceros with 2 zookeepers in it, front and back, which are basically charging the school children. The teachers have to get the children away from the rhino. It looks genuinely terrifying.
But how realistic is the costume?
It's pretty good.
Is it?
If I was 5, I would be very nervous.
You'd be scared.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I don't think so, because I once did a kids show. I mean, a long time ago, did a kids show with Sue Perkins, in fact, and called Lucy and the Dinosaurs. And a friend of ours was playing a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And Ben Moore, do you know Ben Moore?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Moore was Tyrannosaurus Rex. He had a big costume. And Sue Perkins very irresponsibly said to the kids, "Hey, let's beat up Tyrannosaurus Rex." And the stage was stormed with upwards of 55-year-olds just kicking the living daylights out of Ben Moore, who looks, like a early Mr. Muscle. Mr. Muscle's got muscly recently. Have you noticed that? But anyway, Mr. Muscle used to be in the advert. But anyway, and Ben was just in the recovery position, sort of crying and shaking. And get them off.
Well, I've been
think kids
beaten
are-
up in a chicken costume by Alan Davis on QI.
You have?
Yeah.
Beaten up by who?
By Alan Davis.
Oh, yeah.
And he
Actually
properly,
beaten
I think he was taking out a lot of frustration from the previous 10 years.
no.
But yeah, I was in a costume and he decided, as a joke, I think.
Was this
that
during
he
the
would-
show or were you guys in a hotel room?
It was for a Christmas special of QI. And the thing is, because the kind of slot that you look through is quite small, and it's a big sort of costume, the one that I had, and I assume it was the same, it very easily goes in the wrong place and suddenly you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And it's boiling hot, you're sweating and
Yeah.
everything. And all you can do is go fetal. It's like literally the only thing.
And you did... on set, that like while filming, it was incredibly... People had to talk you down. I once got asked if I wanted to be an alien in a film.
Was
In
that
The Roman orator.
Yeah, I've got the look. No, it was I was playing basically I would have been playing the beast that sort of landed in a meteorite and then
That's
had
cool.
crashed and then. But the guy, my friend who was casting the film, said you will just have to lie in a field in a rubber suit for a week, and I said no, and I regret it now.
I bet.
I wish I'd done it now.
What was the movie?
I don't know.
So apparently, just going back to furries a second, the conventions are a nightmare for exactly the reason that you were saying about...
Everyone's too hot.
Yeah, everyone's too hot. They can't see anything. So anyone who's in a costume is just bumping into each other. The article says inevitably going to smack a child in the head because your arms are just, whapping about. You can't see them at the level
got
that
a big
need
tail?
to. Sorry?
Got a big tail, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
I was just trying to help. I was trying to contribute to the...
Was it going that badly? Hey, by the way, we are going to have to wrap up really soon. We've gone really far over the whole.
we?
Oh, no.
God, I've only just started.
Can I give you some furry vocab and see if you can guess what they mean?
Oh, cool, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what do you think is a furry tan?
Furry tan?
Furitan. Furry tan.
Oh, a Puritan. Someone who is like a Puritan. It's someone who only wears the costume.
It's a furry fan who is not interested in any sexual content. That's pretty
nice.
good.
Yeah, that's
Puritan,
good.
yeah.
To scritch. Do you know what to scritch means?
Oh, you can't scratch yourself through the fur.
Oh, that's
so
good.
what do you do? I don't know.
It's not that, but it is to do with scratching. It's to scratch someone gently, often as a friendly gesture or greeting. Just do a little...
Don't do that.
Can you guess what a fur pile is?
Is that where they all? Is that like a fun
bundle?
Yeah, a bundle. They all jump on top of each
A
other.
carpet is like a carpet. You would say it has a shag pile. So is it broadly similar?
It's pretty much that. It's a gathering of fully costumed participants who roll around on the floor, scritching each other.
Yeah.
Scritching
Yeah.
got quite sexy all of a sudden.
The other thing is that Andy mentioned tails earlier, and there could be an idea in the future that maybe we give all old people tails.
For balance.
For balance. Carl, you're good at this game. The idea is you get like these sort of mechanical tails and you put them on old people and they can tell if an old person is...
With their consent and support.
To stop them falling over, is it?
Yeah, so the tail can tell when they're about to fall over and it can move itself so it'll give them more balance. It'll stop people from falling over.
Turn
that's
old
brilliant.
people into Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
It's just
I think
completely terrifying. I think we should give them gecko feet instead. Because
You don't want to
gecko
come...
feet...
Grandma, what are you doing up there?
That's one of the reasons there's such a trade in geckos, apparently, is they're being studied for the space program. Did you read that? Because their feet can stick to anything except Teflon. Isn't that weird? Because gecko feet will stick to absolutely anything at all except dry Teflon. It's all right if it's wet, but
Isn't
dry
Teflon what we largely use in space, though?
Yeah, so it's a problem.
No.
Yeah, because the clingability.
Great news! We've made you exactly as good as a gecko. Now get up to that space station.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, they did this experiment where they got a load of geckos and they stuck them on stuff and then they euthanized them all. And then they put them back up and they stayed exactly the same, stuck, dead as alive. So...
Wow. On that note, Dan...
Always good to go out on a big laugh. That is it. That is all of our facts. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with any of us about the things that we've said over the course of this podcast, we can be found on our Twitter accounts. I'm on @Schreiberland, Andy,
At Andrew Hunter M.
James,
At James Harkin.
and Sally.
I've just given it up.
I
Thanks.
know. Yeah, but you're on Instagram, though.
I am on Instagram. I think I'm Sally Smack on Instagram.
Sally Smack. Okay.
I'm Smack the Pony.
And we are also on Twitter as a group as No Such Thing, or you can email us at podcast@qi.com or go to our website, nosuchthingasafish.com. All of our previous episodes are up there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Sally, thank you so much for being here.
So much for having me.
It's been awesome. And we'll see everyone. Okay, all right. Yeah. Thanks.